What's up, everybody? My name is Kate McKell.
I'm Corey Clark.
I'm Cole Minder.
And welcome to Craft Beer Fridays. Okay, so today I'm going to be reviewing barrel-aged B.O.R.I.S Oatmeal Imperial Stout, which B.O.R.I.S actually stands for Bodacious Oatmeal Russian Imperial Stout. This is by Hoppin, which is located in Akron, Ohio. Make sure you guys are drinking local. This was aged in whiskey barrels, so it runs at 9.4% alcohol by volume. All right, now we're gonna try it. I'm gonna give these guys a little bit of taste of it, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what their review on this beer is. All right, I'll pour mine the majority. Give you guys a little sample here. Let's get the initial smell. Oh, that smells so good already. It's really chocolatey and smells smooth to me. Don't taste it yet. don't you pre-taste.
Just trying to get a good whiff. It's all the way down here.
Okay. Obviously, it's a dark beer. You can't even see through it. It has a nice brown head, bubbles, not much carbonation, but it smells really, really good. What do you guys think?
I like the smell of it. It smells...
Dessert beer, of course.
Yeah,
Dessert beer.
Smells alright.
Alright, cheers. Cheers. Alright, let's see. Oh.
Yep, get that one in there.
You have a little bit of bitter there. You can taste the malts. Not as much chocolate as I thought I was going to taste, but you can tell it was aged in barrels. That whiskey comes in on the aftertaste, but overall decently smooth, a little bit of bitter. What do you think? What do you guys think? Like it? No?
It's not the worst craft beer I've ever had, but I wouldn't binge drink it.
No, it does have a really strong aftertaste. Like you said, you can definitely taste the whiskey part of that coming out of it there.
For sure.
It's kind of a liquor beer.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah, it's not very good.
What? Don't listen to him. It's delicious.
So,
was it a dark beer or a light beer or?
One of them was
such a bad experience.
Hop Devil. That was one of them I got, and it's
Okay.
kind of like a spicy.
Yeah, spicy beer is
And then the other one was like Hot Bomber or something like that, and I wasn't really a fan of it either. I don't know. I'm not hard to please when it comes to beer, but I like to try different stuff, and so I'm planning on going to Respect sometime. They have those like build your own stick packs for like $11 or whatever, so I'll probably try that.
You tried a sour before?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like craft beer or anything, but the sours are alright. Tastes pretty good to me.
Yeah, I don't venture outside of like Bud Light and like Reds and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's just
fair enough.
But
you
it
gonna
is
bring
what it
in
is.
your beer?
Oh yeah, craft.
Bring in his
Yeah.
craft beer.
Skillfully crafted.
How dare you bring that onto my channel. Since today is the 10th episode of my beer channel, I thought I would do something a little bit different. So I have two of my gaming friends who know a lot more about gaming than I do, and probably most people, I would say. We're gonna mix beer and games all in the same show. Pretty much I'm just gonna chill and drink this beer while they talk about it. How did you guys, I guess in short, kind of get into gaming? Like, why is this important to you?
I've said it before, I've explained it to people that my parents brought the Nintendo out of the closet, and that was pretty much the first ever experience and exposure I had to gaming. It was like the 3-in-1 cartridge that had Track and Field, Duck Hunt, and Super Mario Brothers. Those were the games I started with, and from then on it was just kind of one of those things, like just really got into it and really enjoyed it, and obviously all the stuff I have now is a pretty good indicator that I've embraced it full on, went whole hog on it.
I don't really remember the first time or when it really set in, but I mean, it just came naturally, pretty much. My parents' friends, we'd always go over there, and they had NES, and I would play Super Mario Brothers, but I'm not sure if that was the first. It was definitely Nintendo, for sure. I mean, that's where my roots are at.
Right.
I mean, what I remember when I really knew that it was something I was going to be into forever, I went with my dad and my sister to just go shopping and whatnot, and my dad kept reiterating we weren't going to get anything that day because we always begged him to buy stuff. Well, we go in Radio Shack and end up leaving with a Nintendo 64, and
Good choice.
yeah, of course, my favorite system of all time. But
I think that's a lot of kids our age. I feel like that was the console, I mean, big PlayStation fans or whatever, but like the N64, obviously had GoldenEye and like Super Mario 64, and I mean the platformer on that system was incredible. I mean, there were so many good games that they came out with, and people still argue that Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are like the two best Legend of Zelda games in the series. So,
and I mean, on a lot of lists, Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 64 are like the greatest games of all time. They're in most top 10 lists.
Yeah, without a doubt. And there's a good reason. And that's something that Nintendo has always like has always stressed, and I feel like that's why they're so far behind when it comes to consoles, is like a lot of people that are fans of gaming are more into the way games look less than what they play. So Nintendo always stresses more gameplay over looks, and I feel like that's why they lag so far behind, because they'll just come right out and tell you too. They're like, we don't care about what the graphics look like. You know, they'll play catch up for 2 generations. Like this NX, I feel like is going to be kind of far behind as far as graphics go, but obviously they're still going to turn out some good games. So you know,
I don't think anybody buys a Nintendo console for
Call of Duty and you know, the big AAA
third-party games. They buy Nintendo system for Nintendo games, and like you mentioned, they'll come right out and tell you. Like Reggie Fils-Aimé just was quoted not too long ago saying they don't care about teraflops or the race with Sony and Microsoft. They're doing their own thing.
I think that's a good thing, but at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, you know, that's why they don't have third-party support or whatever. Yeah. Like, but I will say that one thing is people are connected to Nintendo because it reminds them of their childhood. Yeah. Like we just talked about the N64 being like one of our favorite consoles. My parents obviously had the Nintendo, the original Nintendo. People talk about the Super Nintendo, even the GameCube. Even though it didn't sell well, it still had some good games and a little bit of a cult following. So I mean, people are drawn to that. It's like, well, these games remind me of my childhood. I remember sitting with kids in my neighborhood or whatever playing Slappers Only or GoldenEye, or like just going for all the stars in Super Mario 64. I think people just can't abandon that because Mario is somebody they're familiar with.
I mean, I can never abandon it, but I try to separate my nostalgia with truly good games and good gameplay. And as I've gotten older, I've gravitated towards Xbox and PlayStation as well. But I'll never abandon Nintendo completely. But I think they do rely on nostalgia a bit too much. They need to push forward at some point. With the death of their president not too long ago, it seems like they might be turning a new leaf, like with the new Legend of Zelda game, the new trailer and gameplay that was just shown at E3. I mean, they're bucking conventions. Right. They're bucking conventions left and right.
Open world is something that a lot of games have tried and have kind of failed with, and I feel like that's a big step for a series like The Legend of Zelda. I mean, it's always been kind of open, but mostly like it was fairly linear as far as what you were supposed to do and everything. So this will be interesting. I mean, I have faith in them, obviously. People cried when Wind Waker came out because they said it wasn't like any of the other games, and it still sold well, and a lot of people are like, you know, it's a great game, so I don't think they really have anything to worry about.
At the time, I wasn't old enough, I wasn't paying attention to the industry so much, so when Wind Waker came out, I wasn't like aware that all these people were up in arms about the way it looked and stuff, but now I know that looking back. But Wind Waker is my favorite game of all time. Zelda games have always been semi-open world, but they more or less tricked you into thinking the game was open world, but it really wasn't. When Ocarina of Time came out, was there a game that could be more so considered open world than Ocarina of Time? Like, people always think about stepping out into Hyrule Field for the first time and seeing Death Mountain, and no, I can go there. Anywhere I see, I can go.
Right.
And I feel like they're trying to maybe get back to that with Breath of the Wild, but in a different way.
So would you say that like Legend of Zelda is probably your favorite franchise of all time?
Yeah, I would say so.
And rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot of people that like that kind of stuff. Like, I myself, I had the games, but it was never something that I really like got into a lot. The games that I remember getting into the most, any of Rare's games, like Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, like that one. Those games are so much fun.
Played a ridiculous amount of Banjo Kazooie.
Yeah, I could never get past Rusty Bucket Bay when I was a kid, and then I bought it on Xbox Live, and I finally got past it. Like, now I'm almost to the end of the game, but I still haven't finished it. So that's like a bucket list thing for me, is to finish that game, just because I never did whenever I was younger. It's
crazy. Like, I played through maybe the first few hours of a game not too long ago on Rare Replay, and it was like, I would get to areas in the game, like, there's hills. It's like, obviously you need to use Kazooie's legs to walk up those hills. And I remember looking back when I was a kid, I would be like,
Oh, well,
I would keep running up that hill and sliding down, and now it's like.
And now it's like you just know. Yeah, I agree. I had all the strategy guides for those games and stuff. I was like, oh wow, I didn't know you could do this and everything. And now it's like I look at that and I'm like, this is painfully obvious. Like why should I be doing it? But I guess that's the difference between when we're kids and how we are now. Ukulele. I'm excited for that actually.
Me too.
I backed it on Kickstarter.
Did you?
Like they went so far as to release for some backers they had a cartridge. It looked like they were like an N64 cartridge and had the game on it and everything, but it was pretty expensive. But I'm super pumped because like I was so excited when Nuts and Bolts came out, and then I was just disappointed.
So disappointed.
So I'm really excited now that this game's coming out because I feel like this is those developers' chance to say, oh, we know we screwed up. You know that wasn't our game, so here's this, and we think you'll really like it.
And I hope it even influences some more developers to harken back to the days of the 3D platformer because I mean, they're just such fun games.
When you think about it now, like look how many games just involve guns. Like
yeah.
It's pretty much. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love those games and everything, but sometimes you need a little bit more substance, and I think indie games really have kind of stepped in to like fill that void. Like Mighty Number 9 just came out, which is Inafune or however you pronounce his name, the guy that did like the Mega Man series. You know, that's a pretty big deal. Cuphead, the one that's coming out on Xbox, that looks really cool. It's completely different art style, but you know, a platformer, all that stuff. Like I agree with you. Those kinds of games need to make a comeback, and I feel like gamers and the community as a whole has like pretty much said, you know, we want this stuff to come back.
Obviously Ukulele set records for like
the fastest backed Kickstarter I think of any game that they had.
Obviously people want those.
You make a quality game like and with those kinds of names on it, those people that develop for Rare, you make a quality game, people are going to be interested in it no matter what.
I was hopeful for that game when I first heard about it, and I'm even more hopeful now. Like, they released a trailer at the same time that they pushed the release date back. I could care less about the release date being pushed back the same way as The Legend of Zelda. I want the game to be as good as possible. I'll wait for it. But the new trailer that they put out whenever they announced the release date being pushed back I was like, wow.
It looks insanely polished for no further along than it is.
This looks way better than I expected, honestly.
I think it's a labor of love, more or less, for them.
Yeah,
like this
probably.
is something they've been wanting to do for a long time, and now that we have this advent of like crowdfunding, you know, they can ask for money from people and more than likely get enough to to back, you know, to have something like that happen. I'm excited for that, and I think the world's like based on that trailer, the colors, all that stuff, it just like it screams that nostalgia for me. So I'm really looking forward to playing it.
The text bubbles that pop up and everything are just Banjo.
Yep. The dialogue, the way that they carry out the dialogue, same stuff. You know, just different characters. But that's really all I wanted in the first place was just another, you know, Banjo Kazooie game. So I guess, you know, I'll take it. You were talking about was like being complete games, and you know, you don't care that they push the release date back. I feel like developers could learn something about that because we're at a place now where we're getting all these games that aren't quite finished, and people are shelling out $60 for this crap, waiting on patches to come out to stabilize the game and fix a lot of the glitches that they have and stuff. Like, why not spend a few extra months like testing and making sure that some of your glitches are gone, and then, you know, say like, hey, we're sorry, we want to make sure that you're getting a quality title here, so we're going to take 3 months, we're going to test the game, then we'll make sure that you get it. Because I feel like Halo, the Master Chief Collection,
oh man,
now,
disaster.
I will say 343 made up with it with Halo 5,
Most definitely.
because it was, I mean, it's a great game, doesn't get near enough credit.
No, it doesn't.
But it definitely was a good game. But yeah, the Master Chief Collection, I just played through Homefront, the Revolution. No.
Not good.
No,
I've heard
like,
only bad things about it.
I wanted to like it so bad because the story sounded cool and everything, but there's so many glitches. The frame rate just stutters like crazy whenever you're trying to get through certain things, or you get a lot of stuff going on screen and everything. So I just feel like, you know, yes, they should patch it out and everything. I think Just Cause, like, they had a lot of problems with that too, but I think they've patched a lot of the issues out of that game. So it's...
That would probably have a lot to do with just how big that game is and how much is going on the screen at one time.
Well, and that's the part I understand is that they're constantly pushing the boundaries of these consoles and testing the limits to see what they can do without breaking it.
Mm-hmm.
So like obviously you might run into a few glitches and stuff, so that's understandable. But at the same time, it's like there's got to be a good balance there between being finished and quality and being crap.
Yeah, there's also games like is that Battlefront up there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the name Star Wars is on it, and it was around the same time that The Force Awakens came out, so they wanted to get that game out. From what I hear, there's not much content.
Yep.
It's Battlefield. There's no single player.
Skin,
There's no single player. Battlefield with a Star Wars skin. I mean, yeah, you're gonna make a lot of money in the first.
They did.
Yeah, well, they did in the first, few months, and maybe even still now. But why not take time to make a quality game that people will remember forever?
There's so many games that are like that, like Star Wars. I think they revealed at E3 that they were going to release some new content for it, and they said the next game would be the one that had like the single player campaign in it and stuff and everything, and like that's great. The thing that blows my mind is when they closed down LucasArts, which had already started working on Star Wars 1313. I don't know whether you guys saw the gameplay. It was like an open world Star Wars game, like for consoles. It looked incredible. I mean, it was, I wouldn't say really far along in development, but it was pretty far along in everything. This one, it's been a few years. I think it was like E3 2013 or something when they revealed this, but it looked insanely good. They were kind of like holding it off, saying it was going to be one of the games that comes out for the next generation, which would be the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. I want to say it followed Boba Fett was like the main character, and you went around, you were almost like a bounty hunter.
Right.
But I mean, the amount of polish that game had was crazy, and then just like that, they closed the studio, started working on this new Battlefront, and I remember seeing early footage from the Battlefront game, and I was like, this looks really good.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know it was just like you didn't actually get to go on really an adventure game. It was more just kind of a shoot and whatever.
Battlefield.
Yeah, right.
She was one.
I was really excited for it, but then when I started hearing more about it, I was like, oh, so it's just like a shooting game.
I was like, I'm not sure that you're going to sit down and
Yeah.
play online match.
Right, just online matches, and I was like, no, that's not really up my alley.
The Old Republic?
I have not. But I guess for the people who do have Battlefront, DICE is coming out with more expansions where you can do Bespin and the Death Star, and they're coming out with another one in December. So there is new content coming for Battlefront, but it's just, I don't know, I definitely didn't go out and buy the game, unfortunately, because I heard it was just like online stuff, and I'm not great at the double controllers anyway, so it wouldn't have been good for me. There's a Star Wars game called Galaxy of Heroes, which actually I started playing today for the first time. It's not bad, but it's a very big game. It's pretty much you build up your characters and you battle enemies, and then you get more points, and you just unlock all these features within the mobile game. So if you guys don't really want to go out and buy a console, it's a free game. It's really fun. It's a big game, so it's definitely time consuming and really cool. And it also has a great soundtrack, so you're immersed into the Star Wars world on your mobile device, which is cool. So it's a free game. Go check it out if you want to. Galaxy of Heroes. I guess Visceral Games is coming out with a 2018 release of a new action Star Wars game. They didn't really have a title for it or much information from what I found, so I guess stay tuned for more information about that.
Titanfall.
Respawn does Titanfall? Okay, so I guess Respawn is coming out with a third-person game as well. There's not much information about that either, but there's a Star Wars game coming there, so look forward to that. Star Wars The Old Republic, if any of you have played it, because I have not. I guess this December is the 5th year anniversary, so they're going to be coming out with more expansions for The Old Republic. For those of you that play it, that should be exciting for you.
At first, I'm pretty sure it was a paid membership, and like only a handful of people played it. I mean, I wouldn't say a handful, but like, not as many as would play it if it were free to play. And I think they finally realized that. And it's still a game I've never gotten into, so
I haven't really either.
Those MMOs like that, that's a lot of time. Like RuneScape was the only MMO I got into that was like really big like that, and I didn't like myself after I spent so much time with that game because I didn't really get anywhere. So
closest thing I ever delved into an MMO was Destiny, and
Destiny was a blast.
I mean, I love the shooting mechanics. People complained about the grinding aspects once you got to level 30, but I mean,
I hated that.
It was fun, at least,
For the most part, I would agree with that. I mean, it was fun, but after you finish the main quest, like in year 1 of Destiny, now this is before they added all this other stuff, it was such a, like, for you to find materials and stuff, like, it was, that was the part I had a problem with.
Now, just run around the same map over and over, mining materials. Like, it was monotonous, for sure.
But then they added all this stuff, you know, they added new content, they added new weapons, they upped the level cap, like, the Taken King completely changed that game, and everybody was like, that's the game that we wanted from the beginning.
Right.
And it is true, like, if you go back and watch, look it up on YouTube, if you watch stuff that was revealed from Destiny, like when they first announced the game, it was a completely different game. And if you read up on the history of the development of the game, like, some of the key people that were involved, like, left the studio, or, you know, or whatever, they had this game pretty much already done, and the head of the company, like Bungie, said, no, we're going to change it, and this is what we're going to do. But they had so many different things in it. It was more of an open world and all that kind of stuff, and then it all changed.
I moved from where I was living whenever Destiny first came out, and I actually had fast internet. That's just the way I get with games. If once I like a game, I like a game. I don't care what anyone says, you know. And I would still be playing it if I still had the internet speed to do it. It was Halo. It felt like Halo, but it never ended.
I loved the multiplayer part of it too, like the Crucible stuff. I mean, the only thing I had a problem with at first was there were some balancing issues, like the Blade Dancer. You could go all the way across the map and take out the whole team in one go, and that was kind of annoying. But
I remember being so angry with certain guns, like the Suros regime. Whenever people started getting that, I was like,
it was OP at the beginning of until
2 bullets.
Yeah.
And
what was it? The Galahorn, the rocket launcher. Yeah. That was the other one that, like. And then they pretty much gave everybody the middle finger when year 2 of Destiny came out, because they're like, fuck you, this weapon isn't that good anymore.
Yeah.
That fucking gnat needs to go. There's another expansion that's coming out, like, this year. I forget what it's called, but it looks like it'll be pretty interesting. Yeah. And they took pretty much the World of Warcraft approach. It's like, you know, here's the vanilla game, here's an expansion, like kind of like a drip feed as far as stuff goes.
I feel like it'll be remembered, if nothing else, for the fact that it was like the first console game that did that.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Took the MMO approach. Like,
yeah, it proved the MMOs can work on consoles.
Oh yeah, it still has a huge player base. I know it does.
But then that begs the question, why did the Division experience such a drop off in players?
I don't know. From what I heard, it started having problems with, like, cheaters, for lack of a better term, or the end game wasn't that great, which was a similar problem to Destiny.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, a lot of people I've talked to, you know, talk about the Dark Zone and everything, and, like, that's where you get all your good items and everything from. But I feel like if you're not a high enough level going into it, then you're not going to survive anyway. So it's like almost like a deterrent for some people that are looking to, you know, get into that.
Right.
So the game that I'm most excited for is the new LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens, because I religiously played the old one, the complete saga, LEGO Star Wars. We were actually playing it to try to finish it again before the new one came out. And of course I know he has a couple complaints about the ship part. Trying to drive the ships is impossible. And when you have to collect the little studs, you have to run around and just hope that you can collect all of them before they disappear. So those were the two main things that we're hoping that is going to change in this new one. I'm very excited because we got the deluxe edition, so you get like a little mini Finn figurine. And I think it also comes with a Legos something that you can put together, I don't remember. And then you get character packs and a season pass. So there's a lot that goes in the deluxe edition that I am very excited for. Plus, it's going to give you new Star Wars canon, so you get to learn more about like Lor San Tekka, because he's a really short kind of guy in the very beginning of the movie that you don't know much about. Plus, you get to learn how Han and Chewie capture the Rathars, which I think will be super exciting as well. I'm just really excited for that game because I hope they make some improvements. We got it for the Xbox. So hopefully I can play it as well as I did on the Wii, but I think it'll be fun to learn more about the Star Wars universe, so you don't have to read all those books, you can just play the game and have fun.
They're charming games, the LEGO games.
They are, and it's still going to have a LEGO feel.
It looks really good. The new one looks really good. I mean, I can play the complete saga and have fun if I let go of the fact that it's not.
Yeah, it's like
Tomb Raider, you know, it's not.
Those games are they're not meant to be like these super deep like character development games or whatever. You know, they're taking an already licensed property, making it Lego like only they can, and you know, and then just like telling people play this. Like the superhero games, those are a blast. Indiana Jones, the original Star Wars, there's Harry Potter. Like they've done all those franchises, and they all sell extremely well. They review well for the most part. Like people, you know, really like talk about the games being charming and all that kind of stuff, and that's really all you need for a game like that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not a serious, scary game. It's just you learn stuff, but you get to just kind of relax and play the game at the same time, which makes it really nice for me.
From what trailers and gameplay I've seen, at how good the Force Awakens one looks. So
I
I am excited to play it. I mean, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I just got into it a little bit because of her. I started playing, not playing. I watched the entire
series,
first trilogy and the second trilogy. I watched them all. And they were good, but I didn't grow up with them, so I wasn't so attached to them. And personally, I watched all of those leading up to The Force Awakens coming out, and I thought The Force Awakens was awesome. I thought it was the best Star Wars movie, which obviously everyone that's a Star Wars fan will think that's blasphemous, but
it was good.
It was good though, but of course.
And I'm excited for the future of it.
Yeah.
Of the series, and that's kind of why I'm excited for the new game.
I'm just so sad George Lucas sold it. That's just, when I saw the ending and the title slides said J.J. Abrams, I mean, he did a great job, but I was like, it should say George Lucas. It was
but George Lucas wasn't going to give the fans the movie that they wanted to see.
I know, he was done.
He was like, and that's the thing, and I feel like maybe that was his way, you know, of growing up like George Lucas was, but I'm glad that he like finally said, okay, I can't give the fans like what they want.
Right.
So I'm going to give it to someone who can.
Fair enough.
And J.J. Abrams.
And he did do a good job.
I know it's blasphemous that he did Star Trek too, because Trekkies and
right,
Star Wars, they're not going to get along. But he's done well with both series, and you know,
he has, yes.
It does make me excited for the next Star Wars movie.
I know, I am very excited.
I hope that they don't
do.
oversaturate it though, because like George Lucas and whenever everybody else was at the helm, they knew not to, you know, just churn out movies and make it less special, for lack of a better term, and Disney's already announced how many movies.
Right, there's pretty much one coming out every year for a while. Yep. And the merchandise has gotten a little bit ridiculous, especially coming from a collector.
BB-8 oranges? Are you kidding me?
I didn't see that. I didn't see that. Oh my god. Better get in the fruit aisle.
Yeah,
Jeez.
exactly. You look at superheroes though, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
like
it's just a little much.
Marvel is so insanely popular right now with their cinematic universe, and I am a huge fan of like all those movies, and so they're making money off of me. But it's the same stuff. Like it's just
overwhelming.
There's so much stuff. There's action figures. There's pops like these. There's games. There's DVDs. There's T-shirts. There's kids' toys. Like there's everything you can think of. And as a collector, I feel like it takes away from the collectability of that stuff because
absolutely.
Since they overproduce it so much, there's nothing that you could buy and stick away for 30 years and get it out and be like, well, this is worth a fortune.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like that anymore because it's not the 70s, it's not the 80s.
No.
It's just
it's hard to determine like, okay, what's going to actually be worth money, because back then, especially with Star Wars and Kenner toys, you're like, okay, these are going to be worth, you know, of course back then they didn't think, oh, I better keep all my Star Wars Kenner toys, but those are more fun to collect. Like I can't even get myself to collect toys that are coming out now because I know there's just so much stuff like toothbrushes and cereal and Subway cups, and like it's just too much to want to be like, oh, this is gonna be worth money, I better have all of them.
Yeah, I know how you feel. Like some of these are worth, you know, whatever.
Right.
Like I said, like there's one of it was Princess Leia, Comic-Con exclusive last year, I believe. She's worth like $400, I think. Yeah. I mean, there's some of them that are pricey, like the early blue box Star Wars pops and stuff are worth some money, but like it's a crapshoot with that kind of stuff. Like you don't usually the limited run stuff is the stuff you want to go after, but even then that's a very niche thing. Like only certain people are going to be interested in that. It's not like you're just going to get somebody off the street to come in and say, "Oh, that's really cool. I want to buy that." Yeah. Like it doesn't work.
It's like, oh, everybody has that.
Yeah.
Being the Nintendo fan that I am, I can bring it back to them. I mean, they do have some random stuff like Nintendo cereal, like Mario, you know, stuff like that. But for the most part, they hold their IP close to their chest. Like There's
Yeah,
no
they don't
Nin-
license it out very
No.
much, like especially for stuff like this. People have been crying for Pokemon Pops and Mario and stuff.
I don't want them.
It's
I'll
not gonna
buy
happen.
any of those. You know what I mean?
Right.
That comes from Nintendo themselves.
I just wonder how much of the shortage Nintendo is manufacturing themselves, because I feel like
Oh, they are. For
they
sure.
drive the hype up so much for that stuff because of the shortage. Like when the Wii came out,
Oh,
you couldn't
God.
get a
You
Wii
could not get
for
one.
forever. I remember I called down to Toys R Us in Parkersburg one morning on a Sunday, and I asked them. I said, "Have you guys got any Wii's in?" And they're
No.
like, "We have like 2 left." So I like woke my mom up, and we went down there that morning so I could get one, because she told me, you know, that she wanted to get me one or whatever. But they were so hard to find.
Did it release? I think it released in November.
Hmm.
Well, I wasn't expecting to get one at all, but my parents had actually stood in line almost every night at Toys R Us, and I had one Christmas morning. But it was a cardboard box wrapped, and inside that cardboard box was the Wii box wrapped, and I wasn't expecting it at all. I unwrapped the Wii, and I was blown away because I knew
How hard they were. To
how
get
hard
rid of.
how hard they were to find. Spent the next 3 to 4 days playing Wii Sports with my grandma and stuff like that.
I have a similar memory to that. My back when the PlayStation 1 was big, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater came out, and that game came out. I think it came out around Christmas time. It was like in November or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was sold out like everywhere. That game, it was really popular. A lot of people liked it. I didn't have any idea. My grandpa and my grandma went shopping, and he searched like high and low to find that game, and he did. And I opened it like Christmas morning. And my grandpa's, not with us, not with me anymore. Like, he passed away or whatever. But that's one of the things that I will never forget, because he was not a fan of video games. He was not a fan of that kind of stuff. And he sat there with me and played that game like the whole day.
Aww.
And I
That's
will
awesome.
I will never forget that, because like even if it wasn't him, like if it was grandma that was doing the looking, I don't care.
You're right.
They made it to where grandpa was the one that got it for me.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, you're my hero.
And,
We're doing this for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
my grandma loved the Wii. Like I was saying, we played like bowling, tennis with
Mhm.
her all the time on the Wii. So the following Christmas, we got her a Wii for Christmas, and there's a picture of me like leaning up, watching her opening the Wii to see her reaction, and I have a Nintendo hoodie on with a
Mhm.
bunch of just Nintendo characters all of it, and I'm like this with my Nintendo hoodie on, watching her open the Wii. So it's a pretty sweet picture.
You gonna get any of the new Vans shoes that Nintendo's releasing?
He's been sending me pictures like, I need these.
I want a pair of them.
I like a lot of them, but I mean, the more I think about it, I'm like, I don't know if I'll wear them, but I mean,
Yeah, that's the thing I run into too. I'm like, those look so. Like I have a pair of
Yeah.
Star Wars ones.
Oh, I have a lot of them.
And I'm
but
like,
I'm like,
I don't
I'll
know
just
that I
wear
wanna wear
some.
'em.
I'll keep them clean and then put them in the box. Should I take the tag off? I don't know.
I was gonna ask you though, since you're such a Star Wars fan, you're a George Lucas fan. Are you an Indiana Jones fan?
I mean, I do enjoy Indiana Jones. Is that a thing that we're not supposed to like? Because I do.
No.
like Indiana-
It's funny because you grew up with Star Wars.
Right.
I grew up with Indiana Jones.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I don't know what it was. It was here downstairs. We had this. My grandma had this really old TV. I had a VCR hooked up to it. Well, the video store used to be like just down here.
Mhm.
I went down there and rented like Temple of Doom, Raiders of the Lost
Mhm.
Ark. I watched those movies so much.
Oh.
And when we went to Disney World when I was like 5,
Mhm.
they had a Indiana Jones stunt show.
Oh.
It was the same show every day. Every day we were there. We went to that
The
show.
same show.
I did not care. I was like in awe, But it's funny because like, I love the Star Wars series and everything, but I
Right.
kind of got into it late. But like Indiana Jones is something I've watched as a kid and
Huh.
loved it and did not care for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Right.
I can't wait for the new one though, because Harrison Ford's in it, and they got John Williams back to do the soundtrack.
Oh, really? Yeah,
So-
I didn't really get into Indiana Jones. I mean, have watched all of them,
Mhm.
but I never really. I mean, I don't really know much about it. If you quizzed me on it, I would not know
I've forgotten a lot of the
any
details,
answers.
too, so,
But I
it was just-
do enjoy Indiana Jones. It
I
was a good
loved it.
series.
I love the
Harrison
movies.
Ford is a great actor, even though he's moody.
Yep.
He's great.
and tends to fly planes when he shouldn't be.
Right,
you know.
and just gets hurt and wants to die. Why does he want to die
I
in the
don't
movie?
know.
Why
I don't
did you
know.
die?
What did you think about Fallout 4 overall?
I liked it. The story was different. Like it wasn't the same as with Fallout 3 and stuff, but at the same time, I quit playing it less than halfway through. I don't know whether I got bored with it, because there's really not that much stuff to get bored with in that game. I mean, you can do whatever the hell you want, so it's
Yeah.
not like. I just think there was other stuff out at the time that
Mm-hmm.
was more worthy, that I thought was more worthy of my attention. I was talking to somebody else about this today. The Witcher 3 was the same way. Like that game, no one has had a bad thing to say about that game.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I even played that
But
game.
I have not put that much time into it. Like
Right.
I haven't put the time into it that it deserves, I guess would be the better way to say it. Because like after all the stuff that people have said and everything, I'm like, I should really play this game. And
It's a great game.
so all in all, Fallout was a good game. Obviously that's another company. Bethesda never really like touted the look of the game as far as that goes, but it was more about gameplay. And while I do agree with some of the detractors saying that there was an emphasis on violence, like there was no peaceful way out of a lot of situations, you know, you pretty much just like had to shoot your way out.
Pretty much.
And that was one of the, it wasn't really a complaint of mine, but I understand where they're coming from with that. Like other than that, it was a good game.
The parts like that seem like pretty straightforward though. Like, I mean, as far as my decision of the way I wanted to play the game, I don't remember a part where I was like, I don't want to kill this. Well, maybe a couple parts where I didn't necessarily want to kill that person and I had to, basically.
Right. But there's no like moral choices in that one, like that you have
really
to live with as far as that goes.
Other than the companions.
Right,
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, there's no overarching good or bad system, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, like Fallout 3 had like the karma system or whatever.
The karma system. But I mean, overall, it was Fallout. I absolutely loved just the core mechanics of Fallout, and I loved crafting, and just for the simple fact that everything you pick up has a
Purpose.
A purpose.
I agree with that. Yeah.
There's a lot of things in like Fallout 3. It's like I've seen this 1,000. Like, why am I even looking at this stuff?
Why? Yeah.
So that was great, but I did feel like settlements and things like that were shoehorned into the main story too much.
I wasn't a fan of that either. Like I like the creative, like people that are creative, like have a lot of ideas and stuff they can do with that stuff. But for me, that's not really why I'm playing the game.
It's fine that it's there, and if I want to take the time to build up my settlement, cool. But it doesn't need to be a part of the main story.
Right.
My biggest gripe with the game was for you to liberate new settlements, and then as soon as you liberate a new settlement, you're almost required to make sure the people there have what
Water
they
and
need,
electricity
or else you're
and
going to
all
get things coming up. Help
Yeah.
defend Oberlin Station. I don't care.
I'm in the middle of doing something. I'm not going to take myself away from that
No.
just to take care of something like that. Like, and I pretty much ignored it at that point. Like I was like, I'll be a bad settlement leader. I really could care less. Like
It's
Let
cool
'em
that it's
die.
there. I would put some time into it, but it doesn't need to be a part of.
I just love the exploration of the game, and in real life, I'm borderline obsessed with like abandoned things. I don't know what it is about it that interests me, but I am, and so like the fact that I get to explore all that stuff in the game is so cool. I'm gonna be one of the ones to say that I like Fallout 3 more than I like New Vegas. I mean, it's the same thing. I played through 3 non-stop for the longest time, and I think maybe that's part of the reason too. Like I want to get back into Fallout, but I also understand what kind of time commitment that requires, and I just need to figure out like whether that's worth me putting that time in.
Right.
And if I could quit my job, I would finish it. Like even if I could quit my job for a month, I could finish so many of those games in there. It'd be amazing. But it's not. It doesn't work like that.
And if Fallout was real, I'd be reining in the money because
Yeah.
I have enough bottle caps to supply everyone.
This kind of describes how I feel about video games in general. Like, Fallout has its own feel and its own lore, and it's also something that could potentially happen, I mean, to a certain extent.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't like high fantasy, like dragons, long swords, that type of stuff. I'm not into that. Like, if I'm sitting there and I want to decide whether I want to play Witcher 3 or Fallout, I'm going to pick Fallout because I just think the world is so cool, the exploration is so cool. Like I said, I'm just not into high fantasy, and to bring it back around to an overarching theme, I just like games that take their own direction, their own idea, their own art, and their own direction instead of just relying on graphics and power and things like that.
I mean that's completely justified. Like that's what makes gaming as great as it is. You have choices. You can pick what you want to play. Like you don't have to like the same stuff as me, or she doesn't have to like the same stuff as you, or or whatever. Like we have freedom to like whatever we want. And I mean, I like both of those games, and now I agree sometimes like there's some games like I played Dragon Age and I was kind of whatever towards it. I understand why people like the game, and I don't mind the fantasy aspect of it because it is a way to escape and a way for you to like get into another world. The gaming industry would not survive if we all like the same stuff because
No,
then
of course not.
They do make games for literally anybody.
We wouldn't
which
get
makes it nice.
we wouldn't get the wide variety that we have. Like we may not have ever gotten the Mass Effects or the Legend of Zeldas or the
Mhm.
whatever, if we all like the same stuff. Like, if it were up to a lot of people, we'd just have first-person shooters every year,
Oh my
and
God.
that would be it.
A lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
First person shooters, Madden and FIFA. would
Yep,
be
sports games, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I don't hate high fantasy. I have full intention on playing Witcher 3 at some
Mhm.
point. I just know once I do, that's a deep dive.
I do have to give Bethesda credit, though, with, in a year's time, like, they announced Fallout 4 last year, released the game, and now they're talking even more expansions and
Mhm.
everything, something that, like, a lot of developers wouldn't do. I mean, you can tell that was a game that they cared a lot about. It was a game that they were really interested in making sure the players, like, were entertained. The Nuka World expansion, the one where you're, like, going to be able to build your own theme park and all that stuff, that sounds cool as hell. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you want to do something like that?
And,
I mean, it's-
the one before that, it's kind of bringing Fallout Shelter into Fallout 4. You
Mhm.
design your own vault,
Yep.
conduct experiments on vault dwellers. I
Yep.
mean, I could spend an insane amount of time just doing that.
You get to bring out your sadistic side with that.
Right.
You
What
can
shall
be,
I do next?
you can
to
be
these
whatever
people?
you want. Like, you look like Mr. Burns, like bringing your hands together.
If it's anything like the way I played the main story of Fallout, I'll sit and hassle with moral decisions for 20 minutes because,
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
He literally texted me and he was like, I don't know what decision to make. And I was like, just make one.
Something about the whole synth thing, I was like, should I feel bad for them? Should they have the same rights as humans? Or which is a real world interesting dilemma.
Right.
It
It's cool.
is.
It's really cool, actually.
And
I thought.
sometimes you don't really think about it, but, like, games will do that to you. You might just be playing along and you're like,
Mhm.
you stop and think about it after you've played it and you're like, holy shit, that's
Yeah.
like some real life stuff.
Yeah, this could maybe be a real decision in the near future.
I love watching movies and I love watching TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
But for you to be able to play a game and immerse yourself in that world, it's completely different from
Right.
any other experience. And for the people that argue that video games aren't art, they're crazy.
Oh.
Right.
They
Especially with VR coming in.
Mhm.
I mean, that's going to be even more immersive and take you to even more real world experiences.
I know, like, obviously Fallout's getting a VR release, which will be interesting. I feel like as long as it runs well, as long as any of these VR games run well and stuff, I feel like people are going to be interested in playing them. But I just hope it doesn't go the way that some trends in the past have went, like in gaming. Like they've tried virtual reality once before. Now, granted, the technology wasn't as far along,
Right.
but like it didn't work very well. Or like 3D TVs and all that stuff. Like they pushed the hell out of that for a while,
Yeah.
and it didn't really work out. So like,
I mean, people need to have realistic expectations when it comes to VR. VR is not going to take off as quickly or as soon as people think. It's going to be cool for experiences, small experiences for the next year or two, but it's going to be a while before it becomes as immersive and as cool as what
everybody wants it to be.
everybody wants it to be. Like,
Yeah.
as far as Fallout VR goes, that sounds so cool to me, but I know it's not going to feel as real as I want it to.
Mhm.
So I would almost rather put a VR headset on and play Fallout like that, but only just control the
right,
camera with my
right.
head. Like, just leave it at that, because if you push it any further, I'm going to want to be fully immersed. Say I'm playing with a Vive. I'll walk 4 steps, and then it's going to teleport me
Right.
however far, and I'm going to be like,
We're not gonna get the gamer movie type of experience
No.
that everybody like thinks that we're gonna get. It's not like we're gonna really be in
Right.
like, in a war, in a battle or whatever.
at
I
some
will
point,
say, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see why not. Like they've demonstrated technology where you have those like treadmills that
Right.
move like
Mhm.
according to how you're moving and stuff. But until you can actually use your hands
Mhm.
to control
Right.
what's going on, I feel like a lot of people are gonna be like, we're kind of missing something here. Like Batman. I think Batman will be cool. They're making a VR game.
And
no-
Battlefront, they are
Yeah.
too, making a VR.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be cool to kind of see. Maybe you'll get more of a real view of like how big the Death Star is, or a Star Destroyer or something. But
Or
it's,
you'll get to experience what it's like to be Batman for real. Like you
Right,
get to use all
right.
his gadgets and like
like, whoa,
see
I'm
what
so
he
cool.
sees.
It
and all
may
that
not
kind of
be a
stuff.
full-fledged game like a AAA game, but it'll be experience.
Unless there's a way for you to get like feedback as far as moving things with your hands and
Right.
like. And for you to get some type of feedback in return from the game, you may not feel as immersed as you want to. Now, everything I've read has had positive things to say about VR and stuff, and I'm like, I would try it.
Yeah.
I see no reason not to. But this is gonna lead us to discussing the new consoles, like whether or not to wait and invest in one of those, or to like work on building a PC at that time that's going to be able to handle all that stuff.
When it comes to Microsoft, it's really kind of weird because every first-party game they announced at E3 was not an Xbox exclusive. It was an Xbox and Windows exclusive. So at a certain point, you start to think, what is the point in even having an Xbox?
Right.
Say Halo 6 gets announced for Windows and Xbox.
Yeah, it's like you buy it for one and you get it for free on the other one. Like,
Right.
I understand they're trying to unify their platform, which makes sense, but from a gaming standpoint, like, it's just, I feel like all these consoles just slowly merging towards like one console or like one PC or whatever. Like, I love consoles, I love PC. You know, I don't really have a preference between the two. Like, some of those master race people and stuff, like, really,
I could care less.
yeah, really take that stuff seriously and everything. But I don't, like, it's not something that really I have a personal preference for. But I feel like they're just like, the consoles are slowly trying to close the gap. Like, we had the mods for Fallout. We had, you know, Microsoft's using their Windows platform across the Xbox and the PC. Like, they're just trying to slowly close that gap between PC and console. I understand, you know, it's hard to place a number value on something like that, especially when it is something as subjective.
It is. It's really weird, and it's really subjective. Like, especially like a 1 to 10. It's like, Jesus, what 1 or 2 points changes the whole way you look at a game.
Yep. Well, look at Metal Gear Solid 5. IGN gave it a 10, and then everybody complained about the end of the game after that. Like, it was like, this is the greatest game of all time, but then people were like, well, did you play the end of it?
Right.
Because it just, you know, it kind of like got repetitive at the end, I guess. I haven't even made it that far.
IGN gave a game a 10 today. Inside is a follow-up to Limbo.
Okay. Like, that one that they're hyping up now is that Song of the Deep that's getting ready to come out. It's like,
It looks cool.
like Metroid and Castlevania all put together.
Yeah, Insomniac makes a lot of unique, cool games. I love Sunset Overdrive. They're making
Spider-Man?
Spider-Man, yeah. How far out is The Last of Us 2, and is it a sure thing?
I don't know if it's a sure thing. I feel like
get nervous.
it should be, but at the same time, I feel like the way the game ended was good enough that they don't need to make a second one. They don't need to, if anything, they don't need to follow the same two characters.
Right.
They fleshed out their story, just let them be. There's a million other people that you probably could cover instead and still be able to tell an effective story. I was a little late to the party on this game. I bought it when it came out, and I heard nothing but good things about it. And I played through a little bit of it, and that first scene, or that first like act where Joel's daughter dies, spoilers, I knew we were in for a, you know, quite a ride, and I was like, okay, this is, you know, holy shit. And then like I stopped playing it. Well, then later on, I just kept reading articles about this game and like how great it was and stuff, and I said, all right, I gotta play this game. So I started playing it, got through that part, and then I, you know, really got into the meat of the game and stuff. And Taylor, my girlfriend, she came in and she's like, it's like we're watching you play a movie.
Right.
And I have never felt an emotional connection to two characters like I did for those two in a game. It was incredible. I don't care what anybody says. Everything about that game was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Just the story, the action, some of the moral choices, especially like at the end, you know, when Joel says those things to Ellie, like, it really makes you ask, like, what would you do? What would you be willing to do for the ones that you care about?
So I hope you guys enjoyed the 10th episode of some beer and some gaming. Thank you, Cole and Corey, for joining me on today's episode. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And remember, life is too short to drink bad beer.